Hey everyone, how's it going? So far it's been a pretty good month. I've been losing weight, the Silent Hill 2 remake has been received positively, and now I'm stretching my creative juices once more, covering different types of games and eventually different types of videos hopefully. I've also received codes for some indie titles too that I've been working towards covering to help spread some awareness for them, and I'm going to be chewing into the pits today, starting off with 2-3 boomer shooters, Cryptis and Harbinger, made by Dobrix, D-O-B-R-X. Probably not pronouncing it right, but mispronunciation is one of my natural talents anyways. Moving on, the developer wanted to make some free shooters rather than adding a price tag to them. A lot of developers in general do the opposite when they feel like that they have a product that's worth something, and it's usually after a few projects that they feel that this is the one that they've been working towards. But that's not to say that these games aren't worthy necessarily, but are just made for the purpose of being free and having simple but fun retro-style gameplay for people to enjoy. As for me though, I've come to a point in my life where I expect a lot more in retro shooters, and not just another shooting gallery. Nowadays, I appreciate having a good story and a good setting more, as well as good controls. These are the three things that I look for the most in a game. Whether it's retro or not just isn't that important to me anymore. If the three criterias are positively matched and executed, then I'm already sold. I usually pass games like this nowadays since they don't really do that much for me personally, but since an early copy of Harbinger was sent to me by the developer, I decided to spread some awareness to these games anyways, because there are always people looking for simpler, straight to the point free shooters, retro or otherwise. Anyway, let's get into it. Cryptis is a short, simple and straight to the point experience. You get up and then you follow the instructions until you get your first gun, which is the pistol. From that point on, you just start shooting your way through pixelated monstrosities that come in different shapes and sizes. Some will come up close and others will use their projectiles to poke you, but you on the other hand will be using a handful of weapons that the game gives you. The pistol, the shotgun, the sword, the machine gun, the single shot and a grenade launcher, all in the effort to wipe out everyone that comes your way. Graphically, the game is okay. It's what you would normally see in an Unreal project with a few ideas cobbled together by a solo developer. It's the go-to engine usually for more photorealistic projects, but some developers also go the retro route with it anyways. The game mixes 3D environments, objects, and weapon models with 2D sprites on the screen, which by the way do look really impressive. But personally, I prefer it when all of the elements are on the same page, like something being fully 3D or sprite-based like the classic Doom games. I'm kind of finicky when it comes to that sort of thing, but that's just me. Gunplay of movement is pretty solid, you have double jumping and dashing, the weapons don't take too long to figure out, and you can develop some speed with well-timed bunny hops. But this is a game that'll be over before it really gets going. You have one fairly large level, and the second level has a boss fight at the end. After you've beaten it, that's pretty much it. As a starting point, it's not bad for a first go at this type of project, but it definitely could have used at least 2 more levels with some new enemy types and maybe even an endless mode to add a little bit more replayability. It also has difficulty modes that increase the damage dealt by enemies, but that's about as much replayability as you're gonna get unless you're a speedrunner. There's really not much more to say about it, and it's really more of a template than a fully realized game, which is where the second title gets closer to that goal, which is the game Harbinger. Harbinger works on the bones of Cryptis, taking what was good about it and working on it more. This game has more going for it in comparison, and it even has a story and setting of sorts. This time it has a unique mechanic of its own that adds more intensity to the gameplay, which we will get into a little bit later. Harbinger has you playing as someone being attacked by monstrous enemies, and eventually you get killed. You wake up and navigate your way out of a forest, only to then find a village. This village has a tavern that acts as the main hub for this game. You meet 2 characters that explain what happened to you, and before you know it, you start doing favors for them. From here, you're told of the Harbinger realm, and you're asked to go and investigate it, and by that I mean go in and kill everything that spawns on the map in waves until you're then taken back to the hub. The gameplay here is similar but feels a lot better, and even has a slide mechanic that you can use for stylish shots. At first you have your handgun and the shotgun that you buy from the merchant for $1. But soon you'll be collecting gems to unlock more weapons and abilities that give you an advantage in the arena. The weapons are a lot more reflective of the medieval-centric setting and the designs are pretty neat. But the balancing of the weapons needs to be looked at again, and there's a particular reason as to why, which is tied to the player damage mechanic behind missing shots. Basically, every time you miss a shot in this game, you take damage. There is an option to turn it off, but the developer doesn't recommend it, since the intended experience is to not miss your shots. Single shot weapons are a lot more forgiving because you'll be prioritizing precision anyways, but with weapons like say the burst rifle and the machine gun, this mechanic doesn't really work that well when using them. The burst rifle's recoil is so high that if you're not up close, you'll be damaging yourself in the effort to put an enemy down most of the time. The machine gun is even worse because it also has recoil, and you'll more often than not be damaging yourself in the process of trying to kill enemies. The only time where I found the machine gun to actually be useful was against the final boss, where the sprite was large enough that I could afford to hit it from a distance without damaging myself. The main weapons that I ended up using were the pistol and the crossbow. These two weapons alone made the other weapons useless for me. The pistol already had good damage and a decent rate of fire, which just made the sniper rifle less useful overall, even though it does a little bit more damage. The crossbow has decent crowd control and you don't always need to be accurate with it. You can just hit the ground towards mobs and you'll still register a hit. So how do you get your health back? Well, there's two ways. One, you go for critical hits, which gives some health back, but getting the crit isn't always a certainty here. The second and easiest method is shooting explosives across the map, whether they just be like, barrels of sorts or, candles. If you go for any of those, you will get your health back. This is a way to keep going in the fight, and you'll always want to be on the lookout for these objects. There are 2 arenas in the game, and each time you complete the waves, you take your gems, and then you go back to the hub, continuing the shoestring narrative that you have going. You, like your character, are just going for the ride here. You may as well buy some, royalty-free music, some abilities that enhance your movement and overall utility. Out of the two, this game is definitely the better one, and you can tell that the developer wanted to make more of an effort this time around. For a free retro-styled shooter, it's worth trying, and you've got nothing to lose by having a look at them since they are free. But if these games had a price tag to them, I would only pay for them if it was like a can of Coke on special. The developer, regardless, seems to be passionate about the idea of making free and enjoyable games for people to try, and working on a title as a solo developer is never easy, and developing is hard enough as it is. But in saying that, the payoff is always worthwhile, and there's always a sense of pride felt no matter the scale of the project itself. I'm someone that's somewhat over the retro boomer shooter type of games, and nowadays I usually look for more impactful and important aspects of a piece of media beyond the retro aesthetics. I'll still always come back to some of my favorites like Dusk and Ultra Kill, as well as a few other enjoyable titles, as well as titles that look promising at least in terms of the story and setting, but now I just want new and fresh experiences regardless of the aesthetics that they present themselves as, rather than just, more Doom and Quake clones. I don't really want that sort of stuff anymore. In any event, if you are looking for free shooters on the market that, is simple, straight to the point, kind of plays like those two games, then give both Cryptis and Harbinger a try. Thanks for watching.